Hello to all the Atlanta United fans. My name is Jurgen Damm, and you are watching Scarves and Spike, an Atlanta United podcast.
Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of Scarves and Spikes, and this one is, unlike last week's Celebration Sunday, this is indeed a sad Sunday.
Solemn Sunday.
Solemn Sunday. Disappointment.
Yes, this
sadness.
Is very, very disappointing. Very disappointing. But no, this is as our second episode of doing this kind of Sunday reaction show. We want you guys in the chat. We want to hear from you guys. We'll also be joined by our very own Jackson Popkin, who is sorting out some technological stuff in the meantime. But
he was in the stands.
Yeah,
Charlotte.
He was there, and you were there too.
I was there in the press box. So Jackson is able to provide unique insights from his spot in the stands. We'll have to ask him where exactly he was sitting. It's pretty high up.
Hopefully he dodged the
high up
being thrown by Charlotte fans.
That was pretty upsetting.
Yeah.
Sofia Cupertino from Soccer Down Here had a beer dumped on her walking off the stadium, or walking out of the stadium off the field. It's disappointing.
To give you all an idea, Sophia works with Jason Longshore, Maddie Cruz, John Nelson, Soccer Down Here folks. She does their photography. Very good at it. Yes. Very good at it. We've actually used some of her stuff on scarvesandspikes.com. She was there taking pictures yesterday, and on the way off, she got targeted by a Charlotte fan that just chucked a beer and hit her with her camera. She did say today that her camera was okay.
Good.
She's okay as well.
Good.
But just irritating.
I know.
Ban people like that. It's garbage. It's trash fans, and this sport has no place for it.
No need for it.
There's my rant.
No need for it. Well,
pisses me off.
It's one of many frustrating things that happened on Saturday. Tommy, how's it going? You haven't said anything since we've started. Feel free to jump in.
I was letting you both go.
Just
you were flowing. My first question is how damn windy was it in that stadium? Because there was a corner. It was in Young Ho Koo territory there. It went like a full 60.
The wind I thought would be a little more of a factor than it was. The way Bank of America Stadium is set up, the wind it does whip around. You can see in pre-match festivities, the wind was kind of whipping around. But it didn't affect the mess as much as I thought it would, which is good. Maybe not good for Atlanta United because they lost. And maybe you could say, hey, maybe the ball of the year is maybe affected by the wind a little bit. I don't think it was. But overall, not as much as it was. Not as much as I thought I would say the wind would affect it. So that's not why Atlanta United lost, by the way.
No, I was just curious. I didn't get to actually listen to the game. I went out for a friend's birthday, and we had it on Fox. So it was one of the few games that are on Fox this year. So I got to go out and enjoy it at a bar that doesn't have to. Can you download Apple TV for me? Here's my login. Can you please log in?
You should. So they should have a direct TV in 2025. I think that's new.
Get with the
I think you got to pay for it though, and a bar in Strongsville, Ohio, isn't going to be paying for the MLS package unless somehow it's a secret crew bar that I didn't know of.
Right.
But it was nice to be able to go out and watch a game at a bar, so I didn't get a chance to listen to it.
Yeah.
But I did get to listen to you talk to everyone after the game, Sydney, and the question of the second halves.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a topic that we might hopefully not be talking about after next week. But the comment that he made there was that it definitely wasn't because they were tired. Was that how he said it?
Yeah, I mean, he actually has some context to it. He was saying, you know what, we looked good in the first half. You know, why did things kind of turn down in the second half? So I think he's just trying to figure out what's going on. And he's trying to work with the team, say, hey, we gotta whatever this is, whatever it is, we gotta shake it off, and got to get ready for both halves because this is now 2 weeks in a row. He kind of said, we got away with it in last week against Montreal because they won, but like I said, it can't be fatigue when it happens after 2 minutes. Like Vicky saw some things early in the second half, some warning signs. He said, "quote It can't be fatigue when it happens after 2 minutes," which I agree with. I know some fans were saying, "Oh, hey, he must be running them ragged in practice or training and things like that." But I see what he's saying. I see what he's talking about with the response, especially with the two long balls that Atlanta didn't really account for. I think that was his main concern with the match. I think that was the main concern for a lot of fans. After the match, why didn't Atlanta United deal with them properly the way they're supposed to? I think that's kind of the big question we have to ask. Does that answer your question about what the exchange Ronnie had in the post-match press conference?
I think so, and I apologize for skipping forward. This is obviously going to
No.
be the big topic of today is the second half because it was the topic last week. But we'll get there. Do you want to get Jackson in here before, and then is he ready?
Yeah, we'll get Jackson in. In the meantime, also, big shout out to our beer partner here in 2025, Sweetwater Brewery. As Tommy holds up the Rowdy Peach IPA,
Rowdy
which
Peach
if you haven't had
IPA.
it is really, really good. I'm a beer snob. I will tell you if a beer is bad. That one is not bad. It is quite good. So y'all go check it out. They are pumping that stuff out left and right. And if you can't find it locally now, you'll find it here in a couple of weeks for sure. So there's our quick promo because we are super, super happy to have Sweetwater on board.
Let's get Jackson in here then.
Jackson Popkins.
Jackson Popkins, ScarsandSpike.com, social media extraordinaire.
There he is.
Hi, y'all.
Wearing the new kit.
Engaged to be
Not
married
the
as
new
well.
Oh no,
Not the new one.
oh,
This one's got the gold star.
you fooled me with the shoulder. That's all I could see.
They did. I actually didn't even notice till now. They did use the same shoulder stripe.
Yeah.
Look at that.
So, how are you?
All things considered, had a good weekend.
Good.
It was a great little day trip to Charlotte. We met some really cool people, hung out at the tailgate. Charlotte has this really cool pedestrian alleyway that's not too far from the stadium, so we got some lunch there.
Yeah.
And this was probably 90 minutes to kick off, and that place was slammed with sky blue, and it was quite a sight to behold. We found a couple of folks wearing Atlanta gear, and so grabbed the table with them for lunch, kind of like
Stay on the safe
holding
side.
our own in
Yeah.
the sea of sky blue. And yeah, so I was kind of ashamed to hear that there were so many negative experiences that people had between fans when the majority of people I met just walking through the park would see hey, first time in Charlotte, how's it been? How are you? How you doing? Thanks to see, so many people were so kind.
Yeah.
And I know the internet kind of takes that out of context a lot of the time. And I know, so sitting up there in section 509, we were maybe row 13, so maybe 10 rows down from the majority. I know 510 was a big general admission.
Right.
The majority of Atlanta supporters were in there. We had some in the top of 509, some in the top of 254, if I remember correctly. Which is interesting that they split the Atlanta supporters up into 3 separate sections. That part I didn't really understand.
Yeah, that was a little odd.
I know we marched in from the tailgate with the Gulch, with the supporters, and we took the most roundabout way into that stadium. we marched. It should be
Scenic route.
hypothetically, it should be a straight shot into that stadium. and we basically circled the stadium, being guided by like, I guess there's some Atlanta staff there, and they were working with the Charlotte staff, and we marched down to the stadium, kind of stopped, and we like basically circled all the way around, like did like 3/4 of the stadium to get to the gate, and from that gate went straight up to the top, and then realized we were on like the wrong end
Oh no!
of the stadium from the section. So by the time we then walked back through the concourse to the other side of the stadium, there was like maybe 5 to 10 minutes from kickoff. And so for the majority of the people in the march, we kind of split off since we didn't have the GA tickets, so we could go straight to our seats.
Yeah.
Right.
But for the folks that did, they were walking up out of the concourse into the aisle, like as the teams were walking out on the field.
Dang.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I was
like,
wondering, sorry, real quick. I was
Yeah.
wondering so close to kickoff why there are so relatively few Atlanta fans up there, but it's good to kind of get an understanding about what was
it's
going
bad
on.
optics without the
Yeah.
context. But I mean, these folks were kind of being just, shepherded where to go. And yeah, they were streaming it. Like I remember coming up to the 500 level of the stadium and kind of getting a peek at the Jumbotron through a concourse, and the countdown clock said like 5 minutes to kickoff.
Dang.
And I was like, oh no, we've got to run. And so we booked to the seats, and luckily we made it in time to see all their fun pre-match traditions, I guess you can call it.
I saw
The
your
crowning
tweet.
of the king, or
Yeah, I got a lot of flack from some Charlotte fans, which I mean, given the result that happened, they're more than in the right vein to go dunk on whatever
Yeah.
Atlanta post they see. So I mean, good for them for having that big of an internet presence. But
I guess.
I don't know. No MLS team is immune from their
Right.
pre-match like traditions.
So I'll say a couple of things. Number one,
Yeah.
the coordination, I think, is called at Charlotte FC. Dave Canales, for those who aren't aware, the head coach of the Carolina Panthers. I kind of joked to Doug and the people in the press box, like, that's probably the loudest cheer he's gotten in that stadium. It's probably the loudest cheer anyone associated with the Panthers has gotten in that stadium in a while. So, so he was the he was in the pre-match festivities, like you said. Then I saw your tweet about the knights that came on the field and all
I
of that,
knew
lighting the
about
torch.
was the coronation part. That's the only thing I kind of knew that they did. And then they started showing these like cryptic videos, and I was like, what is happening? But I mean, hey, it beats. Yeah, I know.
Am I joining a cult?
Right.
That's what's kind of like giving side glances. But at the end of the day, it's better than the throwing a tee box onto the field, or no one's immune from. So we can just have a laugh about it, and it's all good. I will say to that earlier point about the wind.
Yeah.
Sydney, you may have been shielded a little more from being in the press box, but up there in the 500s, man, we were clinging to our seats to keep from being blown away. Like the popcorn dust everywhere, just hitting us in the face. I was like holding my hat down.
Yeah.
So, in your area, and I know you kind of weren't like in the thick of the fans, but like, this is kind of, I guess, a two-part question. Just your own opinion as writer, Scarves and Spikes. Like, you're in the press box with us, obviously at home too. What did you think of? We'll talk about Zaha first, because I know we were dogging on him in the first half, and I still think he's getting way more credit than is deserved in the second half. He even admitted after, like, yeah, I kind of got lucky because that pass wasn't really a pass and it fell to my feet.
Yeah.
Whatever. What did you think of Zaha, and what did kind of the folks in your area think now that he was kind of there for the first time?
Yeah, it very much was that tale of two halves performance. In the first half, so luckily I was on a row with everyone to my left was an Atlanta fan for like 9-10 seats. And so we were watching Matt Edwards closed down Zaha for a whole 45 minutes, and we're just like, wow, like Matt Edwards, like shutting down someone with over 300 Premier League appearances. Like, this is insane. In their own stadium, on his debut, like, welcome to MLS, buddy. Like, here's a homegrown defender being thrown into the mix, and you can't do anything about it. And then when Matt Edwards got up in his face after
welcome
the
to
shove,
MLS, Wilfred Zaha.
Yeah, welcome to MLS, and the Atlanta fans were loving it. They were loving it.
I was laughing. I was cackling at the house. I was like, "This is great."
Yeah, and then just the second half, I feel kind of bad for the kid because all of his work put in defending, man marking Wilfred Zaha, just getting thrown into that situation and pulling off a great first half, and then to open up the second half the way that things unraveled, particularly for Matt. I hate that for him because it discredits his entire first half performance, and for his inexperience, like, it's kind of like, the whole like joke about job applications where it's like you need like 10 years of experience to apply for this job and you're like just coming out of college,
right?
Like, the experience has to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And so I'm not very mad. I'm not upset at Matt Edwards at all. I think this is a great game to test him, to get him up to speed with the pace of MLS against a very good Charlotte team. And as far as Zaha goes, and I even put out a tweet, I was like, because in that first half, the end of that first half, Miguel Almiron was dicing folks up, and creating a lot of chances towards the end there. And I was like, man, is Charlotte kind of regretting their life choices right now, like going after Zaha and just handing over for 400,000 of GAM or whatever, but taking their exclusive rights to Miguel Almiron and just handing it over to their direct rivals. And
that was one corner of the Triforce of tweets that effed Atlanta yesterday.
Everyone was feeling great at the
I
end.
know. There was
old takes
and
exposed.
then there was Dax McCarty put one out, and I was like, Matt Edwards is working Zaha. And then who was the other one?
Parkhurst.
Michael Parkhurst. Like, dang, dude, just get off the keyboard, please. Stop. Because
Tommy, did you tweet anything on your end about the? While you were out,
I did not, but I was going to tweet. This is fun again because I still think that despite what happened in the second half, we're watching the first half and we're watching them attack, and it's looking good. Obviously, they weren't able to finish, and there were a couple of camera angles where I thought it went in. I think it was a Miranchuk a kick that I thought went in. It was just the angle made it look that way. But still, I said this on Spaces yesterday, I would take what that first half was than almost all of what last season. What you watch. I mean, there'd be games where you did not get a shot on target until like the 70th minute. I think there was one where we didn't have any. But still, it's coming together. We knew that there were going to be problems, but we said last week, well, the goal scoring is preventing, us being down or, the rebuild here because these guys are able to score. They weren't able to, you'll lose 2-0. And I'm still not disappointed. And I want to ask all of you what your, at some point here, what your worry number is from 1 to 10. But I think we skipped ahead here, obviously for reasons. I think one of the things that obviously should be talked about, because we were all shocked, was the lineups at the beginning of the game.
Well, initially, but we found out,
we were shocked. I mean, we didn't know that someone was going to be out with the flu, so we were shocked. Don't undersell this.
Yeah, no, but
no, what's going on?
Until I was informed by Johannes on the communications team what happened, we weren't really sure what was going on. Was it an injury? Was it an illness? As it turned out, it was the flu, and we were kind of made privy to that in the press box. Sorry, our corner of the press box, with the Atlanta media that traveled up. So. I think the big one, obviously, leading up was Hernandez with the quad, and you hope that it's not anything serious because you're still then there anyway. And of course, you have Pedro Amador coming back, hopefully for Red Bulls, like not Wilfred Nazi, Ronnie Dyla said leading up. But that was sort of a surprise. And then another surprise, of course, was Mateusz Klich being unavailable due to flu symptoms. So hopefully that doesn't spread among the team, obviously. But Jay Fortune, it's not a surf start. And I said, how do you prepare for this leading up? And he said, it's just training. How you do in training, just make sure you're doing everything you need to do in training to get yourself ready in case you get your number called like he did. He said Saturday morning he found out. So, or maybe around 10 o'clock. So obviously that was a surprise, but I thought he handled himself well for the most part. We already know what he can do. He scored in that stadium before. He's not too far from Charlotte. He's from Raleigh, 2.5 hours away. So you got from Jay what you needed from Jay. Really, the whole team, obviously you expect more, but I think Jay was good, after being thrown into really an emergency situation, for lack of a better term. What do you guys think?
I was good. Yeah, I mean, I thought Jay was really good. I think if I'm going to pick on anybody in this game, and I just thought he had a really rough one, it was Derek Williams. I thought he struggled a lot, and normally he's the guy back there that really is steadfast. He kind of keeps it all together, but I just thought he had a rough day. And I mean, it happens, right? Like, and it's also part of that chemistry. Like because I've seen comments about the depth and complaints about the depth. And I don't think this team really, I don't think they have a depth issue. I think they have if this were July, these new guys, this team would be a little bit more implemented with, Matt Edwards playing now almost 2 full games, and, all these things that kind of came in the beginning of the season that you really hope don't happen, but they did happen to Atlanta. And it's not that Matt Edwards individually isn't quite good enough. He had a great game yesterday. Yeah. It's not that Dominic Chanqui is not a great player. He has been the biggest standout in the preseason. But then you add in the injuries, you add in guys that just haven't really been able to click yet. And then speaking of click, then you throw in, well done. Then you throw in the flu that attacked him, and it does throw some things off. But I don't think the team has a depth problem. I think everybody actually came in yesterday and, for the most part, had solid performances, especially in the first half. It was just the second half, the mentality just dropped immediately. Go ahead, Tommy.
Go down.
Oh, you're muted.
Thank you for calling on me, sir.
You're welcome.
We talk about depth, though. So Klich was out sick, and we said when we looked at the substitutes, the only one available to really come in the midfield, I think we looked at it, was Muyumba, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, that could be a concern.
But
that Muyumba
problem yesterday at all. I thought the midfield was really good.
I get that, but things get crazy sometimes, and it just took one person being out with an injury, and then it's who else you gonna put? I mean, I guess you could prepare for that a little bit better and bring in some youth there. I don't know. Maybe a U22 midfielder would be helpful, long term, just in case things go down, because things do. This is Atlanta United. We have had a couple seasons where you're going real deep into being able to put a decent roster out there. But again, this is MLS, and everyone has issues somehow with depth. It can't be perfect, but you have to have it at, the biggest positions. I don't think that they're too off from this at all, being able to, have depth everywhere. But you got to get that depth some playing time, and you've been getting that, and it hasn't looked terrible. Hasn't looked fantastic, but it hasn't looked terrible. Just remember, didn't Cobb have to go up against Benteke, and how did that go last year?
Right. No, exactly.
And it happens.
It doesn't always work out that great. Like you talk about having a great first half. I think that's fantastic. One play shouldn't be, and we've had people on Spaces that take that one play and say he was terrible. for the entire game. You can't rewrite history.
Can't cherry
The first
pick
half
like
was
that.
great. The tweets are there. The tweets are there forever. It's just
unfortunately, in some
Right.
ways.
It's the quote after the quote
Yeah.
tweet that says, "My bad, dog. Second half
Yeah.
bad."
Jackson, when you saw the news about Cleek being unavailable, and we saw the lineup, I should say, initially you saw Jay Fortune there. I guess what was your first reaction?
So my question, I guess, waiting for that lineup, because if I remember correctly, it took him a second to get it out there. So we were all
Dude.
sitting in the tailgate,
Yeah.
and we were like, "What's
It's
the
like,
lineup? What's
refresh,
the lineup?" Like,
refresh,
"Oh crap,
refresh.
Zaha's starting.
Yeah.
Oh crap, Zaha's starting. What are we gonna do about that?" And so when the lineup finally hit, my first look was, what's the formation going to be from Ronnie Dyla? Like, he's getting thrown this gauntlet of injuries.
Mhm.
How is he going to arrange the back line? Was he going to shift up his formation? Was we going to do a back three with Abram more centrally? And ultimately, he kept the same formation, the same tactics as game one, which kind of surprised me. Just having Luis Abram out there on the as a fullback rather than a center back. I was wondering if that back three, like a shift to a back three, would help them out, kind of going away from his tactical preference for the sake of a result. And he didn't do that. He kept the back four. He kept Sleesh dropping in as that third center back and pushing Abram forward.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot about the mentality of this early on in the season. The result, while it's nice to beat a rival, the result isn't as important as establishing that identity.
Well, let me jump in here real quick on the lineups, and then we'll get to one of the comments in the chat about maybe a hot button topic among some fans. So essentially, for all intents and purposes, this is back three, right? Abram, Williams, Gregerson. Abram, barely moved from the left wing. I mean, his heat map, and I was telling Doug this, is probably this red blob on the left side of the pitch. But he didn't, he pushed, not to say he didn't push forward.
He burned a hole in it.
Yeah.
He burned a hole in that spot.
Right. But you just lose a lot without that pace, that attack mindedness on the left side. And you saw it. You saw it without Amador. You saw it without your options that you have on the left back, on the left side, left wing back. So certainly something that you need Amador back as soon as possible. Not an excuse, but you definitely need him back as soon as possible. There is a comment, and Griffin brought this up about Brad Guzan. I saw this on Twitter as well about Brad Guzan, or not on Twitter, but a comment on one of our 3 takeaways video from after the Charlotte match, talking about Brad Guzan, how it's time to move on and all of that. And Griffin saying in the chat, having a 40-year-old keeper doesn't help. Listen, Brad Guzan is not the reason Atlanta United lost to Charlotte FC. And I know you're trying to make a larger point, Griffin, but I'm not putting Brad at fault for this loss at all. Yeah, I'll say this. His play with the ball at his feet was a little bit shaky, and Charlotte, with their press, had a chance to exploit that several times throughout the match. But I'm not putting him at fault at any of those two goals. This ball's Atlanta United has to deal with in the air. Plain and simple. They're caught flat-footed, and they're punished for it.
The first view of that punch, though, it looked bad. The first replay you see of it, like, why didn't you super punch it? Why didn't you rev up your powers and punch that farther? And then you look at it after like the second angle, and it's like not as bad.
I'm not blaming Brad. I mean, we are 4 months removed from that man absolutely destroying Lionel Messi. I'm not going to forget that easy. But I understand, because I see this point a lot. It comes up, especially after a loss. It always comes up.
People want a boogeyman.
Yeah, and I'm not
Rocco was short. Guzan is old.
Yeah.
Griffin, I'm not saying you are, but just in general.
No, but I think the goals, I agree with you, Sydney. Like the goals they were individual errors, not Guzan's fault. I mean, the second goal, that was a comedy of errors. It was just a cluster. It was it was like watching the Three Stooges. It was really bad, but it wasn't on Guzan. I mean, Guzan, I think he's looking at this play coming at him, and he's like, "What are we doing here, guys? Like, we have a ball that hit the turf, bounced over somebody's head, and then you got a header that's played way too far onto an on-running player. Like, and then you have players tackling each other at some point in one of those goals. Like, it was just a cluster. I can't blame Brad at all. Brad is not at all the reason for it. The cohesiveness of the defense and the inability to handle simple, if we're being honest, simple long balls, like whether it was a bad bounce. And I'm not at all, and I said this on Spaces yesterday, I have to preface it immensely. I am never, ever, ever, and I'm not doing it now, going to blame a pitch on a loss.
Right.
Atlanta lost the game, period.
Yeah.
But well before the second half, we're in the first half, and I was thinking, and I even mentioned it to my wife, I was like, some of these balls are taking like some really weird bounces. Like there's just like some odd stuff going on. It is what it is. You have to adjust to that as a player. You can't have a team come out in the second half, start playing long balls over the top because they can't play through your midfield. Atlanta's midfield was actually pretty good yesterday. So they resorted to playing long balls, and the center backs who should be able to handle them and normally can handle them just didn't. And then you get beat. And it's not, to me, this one is, I mean, it sucks because it's Charlotte. Like it freaking sucks.
Yeah.
But it was a crappy game, two really crappy individual mistakes, and it is what it is to me.
Yeah, Atlanta definitely shot themselves in the foot, and multiple times coming out of the gate in the second half. And ultimately, that's what costs you the game. And I was talking to folks around me about how last week with Montreal, Atlanta scoring first was the best possible thing that could have happened. And I think that's going to be the case a lot this season, where if Atlanta United is not the first team on the score sheet, it's going to be a rough time. And I was starting to have a little PTSD of like breaking the low block with Charlotte after they go up 2 and just throw numbers back there. Yeah, it was just like hitting me. I'm like, oh, here we go again. We're back where we started.
Deja
vu all over again. And yeah, it was just tough to see that after an off season of so much like hype of like the issue is solved. And that's kind of my worry now for this season is the game state of games going to mess with this team, and are they going to be able to come back from some of these deficits against better teams like Charlotte?
Let me jump in there. I think, Tommy, you had something, but I'll just say this real quick. I really liked how Ronny Deila took accountability after a loss, saying, hey, we all, including me, have to find out why this is going on. Yeah. And I was just thinking about this earlier with Gonzalo Pineda, and not to dog on him, there was accountability, but you didn't hear a lot of, from what I can remember, and Tyler, you can certainly keep me honest here, there wasn't a lot of, I take responsibility for this loss. I'm going to find out what's going to happen. Pineda was an optimistic coach. He used to say all the time, it's these little moments. We enjoy these little moments. And the sense was, hey, we're almost there. We're just a little bit closer to where we need to be. He wasn't a coach that really got on players. He was a player's coach to a fault. He was optimistic to a fault. And eventually, I feel like he just lost their locker room altogether. Deila is, I feel like, I'm very optimistic about him being able to take the players by the scruff of the neck, saying, hey, you got to fix this. You got to fix this fast, because we can't afford to drop points this early in the season, especially with a long away stretch coming up this summer against with the Club World Cup coming up, where if you don't take your chances, if you don't get points at home, you're going to look back and say, oh my gosh, we wish we would have won against X team. We wish we would have won against Y team. And I'm confident that he'll do that. And that's why I'm pretty optimistic about the matches moving forward.
I mean, last year and the year before, there were times where we said, it looks like in a Pineda offense, nobody knows where anyone is running. And that is okay to say in week 1 and week 2. Give it a couple more weeks. But we were saying that under the Pineda teams middle of the summer. Yeah. How do they still not know where everybody's supposed to run on a break, right? They're having an odd man break. They should be able to do it. No, they're slowing down, and the defense is being able to catch up, and now there's no scoring chance. That happens so often. This is only week 2. It looked pretty good week 1. You're at home, right? Obviously, MLS is great for being at home, controlling the match. But week 2, you go on the road. You still had your opportunities. You still attacked. You weren't able to finish. There were some chances where, yes, if they had maybe 2 or 3 more weeks to work together, off to the side to be able to work on the offense and how they attack, there would have been a goal or there would have been a better scoring chance.
Yeah.
But it's week 2, and I'm still not worried at this point. So maybe I'll just ask you right now, what is your worry factor? Because from 1 to 10, I'm at 1.
Yeah. I'm more annoyed than I am worried. I'm not worried, because I think if you take this game, take it, piece part it together, right? Because we're always gonna have the recency bias and PTSD. To be fair, like Jackson was saying, there's and we talked about this on Spaces a lot yesterday. There is definitely amongst fans a feeling of, and I actually tried to Google this. I don't think there's a medical term for it, but essentially chronic disappointment, which is sports in general. But you go back,
Buffalo Bills fans.
Yeah,
Tyler, I found it. It's Pineda.
Cleveland fans.
Wow,
it's Pineda.
Just throwing them under the bus.
They prescribe Z-Packs for that.
No, I get it, because you look at the second half and you're like, dude, that was trash. Go back to the very beginning, right? At the end of the first half, you had 10 shots to Charlotte's, I think 2. You had double their expected goals. You were on the front foot in the first half. You were creating chances. It wasn't like you were getting stuffed, in a buildup all the time and never, getting into the box, taking shots and everything. I mean, Miggy had, I think, 4 really solid opportunities just in the first half. Latte Loth had the one that would have burned a hole in the back of the net had it went in. Saba had some at least chances created. The one that bothers me was Alexei Miranchuk. I just thought he wasn't the guy that the team needs him to be, but the attack still did some things. Go into the second half, you get punched in the face, you make a dumb mistake, whatever. But I was really encouraged that Dyla then was like, all right, wholesale change time. Let's pull the football manager and just swap out everybody. That's
a hockey line change.
Yeah.
Right.
and it did get their attack back at least moving forward again, right? It didn't spark enough, but it changed something up. So it's not like you were just sitting dead in the water for the entire game. You were creating things, a little unlucky, whatever. And that's why I'm like, there's a different vibe to this team. There are still some old habits that need to be ironed out for sure. And to be fair, there's some old concerns from fans that also need to be moved on from. You need a 3, 4, 5 game winning streak to really get fans to be like, all right, I can not sit on the edge of my seat when it's the 91st minute and we're winning by a goal. You should become more comfortable than that. But that's where you're at right now. And that's part of what Ronnie Dyla, that's part of what Chris Henderson and the rest of the staff and these new players are going to have to try to build this team out of.
Jackson, are you low on the worry counter as well?
In perspective, and just in a general context of the amount of injuries the backline's facing, no. I mean, I'll put myself a little higher than a 1. I'll say a 2, because the attack was still there and the attack couldn't break through. And a lot of that, like Tyler, you mentioned with Alexei, I think in the attack, there was a bit of indecisiveness that showed from Alexei. And then after the wholesale changes, Edwin Mosquera was just trying to replicate his magic, and it wasn't happening. He'd sit on the edge of the box and just kind of not know where to go with the ball. He's like, I'm not on a breakaway.
Yeah.
What do I do? So that kind of indecisiveness, but then again, it just goes back to conceding first. And I think the concession came from the amount of injuries and the amount of additions into the lineup that had to happen in order to just put up a decent performance. In the first half, I think you can just point to that and say there's plenty of good signs. There's no need to get all of that bent out of shape about this result. If you can take that first half and just somehow get that to translate through the 15 minutes. I don't know what happens in that 15 minutes. We saw it in Montreal, against Montreal. Whatever happens in that locker room in the 15 minutes is, we don't know yet. We don't know yet. Hopefully it's not a trend. It's only 2 data points.
Yeah.
Hopefully with this upcoming week against Red Bulls, we see something other than a flat-footed second half start.
So I'll just jump in here. Talking about our worry factor, I'm going to say probably about a 2.5, 3, because these things are. I would say these things are fixable. They are, and like Jackson was kind of saying, you saw some flashes of what this attack can be once it gels. You saw some really good balls into the box, really good balls ahead to spark attacks, and that final product isn't there yet. But I think once it gets there, it'll be terrific. That's not to say the second half struggles aren't worrying, because they are. Sprague is in this, during the press conference. He said, well, I said, is it bad habits? And he said, no, it's not. I kind of disagree with him. I think these are bad habits. But, he said we need to fix it quickly. And they do. I kind of touch back on the fact that it's bad habits, because we've seen this time and time again with this team over the past few years. So I think it's just a matter of them getting their legs underneath them under this new coaching staff and coming out. And you can't lose games within the first 15 minutes of the second half, but if you're not careful, you can put yourself behind the 8 ball. And again, it happened with Atlanta United. Again, Montreal, you're able to come back, but you don't want that to be the norm, right? You want to get yourself to a place where you're the protagonist in a half, especially if you are in a favorable position. If it's a draw, if it's a tied match at the halftime whistle, if you're in the lead at the halftime whistle, you want to make sure that you're coming out and protecting that lead, or position yourself to score goals and put the team behind the back foot, or put the other team, I should say, behind on the back foot, and make them chase the game. And I think that's a mentality I think that needs to change. And I think with time, hopefully it will under Dyla. Sorry, Tommy.
No. Well, 2 things. One, I mean, Tiare and Mascara almost both scored some fantastic goals. I mean, if you want to say, when you get some hope after the hockey change, they were attacking and they had their chances. It was good to see that they were able to come in and make an impact, even though it didn't fully happen, but they got their chances, and that's really what you want to see there. But obviously the talk is going to be from going into this week, the second half, talking about being tired. I thought it was interesting that Ronnie brought that up. No one brought up about them being tired. He brought that up, saying that. So obviously I think there might be some talk about it, because there were no subs really until way late in the game in week 1. And then here they just come out and they're exhausted in the second half of game 1. Now they're exhausted. I don't know if exhausted, but they make some maybe they're mentally exhausted to make some of those mistakes that they did to allow those goals. And then he talks about it. And then also the thing to keep the eye on this week is the flu, because that is a very spreadable, and it's everywhere.
Yep.
Up here in Ohio, it's wild.
Mm.
But that they share locker rooms, they eat. I mean, they spend more time with the team than they do their families. Let's hope that it doesn't spread, because this, in the NFL and every other sport, usually it doesn't just stick with one person. So hopefully we don't see that, starting to spread throughout the week, or players start disappearing.
It was kind of brought up somewhere, maybe on Twitter. People kind of asking, like, well, if Click was out with the flu or flu-like symptoms, they didn't say it was the flu. Was that maybe some other players were kind of starting to come down with it? Which
Push them
and I guess
through,
there's a positive and a negative to that. Like the negative is if that's true, and that's why everybody was maybe not up to snuff in the second half because it started to hit. Like you lost the game, right? But the positive, I guess, is you have a full week to kind of get it out of your system and get it through and be done with it. So if it is in fact, something legitimately like the flu or something that spreads like that, I mean, you get it out of your system before Red Bulls.
Yeah, that would just be the most Atlanta United thing of all time. Just have your season partially derailed by the flu. Like 2022 was the hamstrings, the ACLs, and this year is the flu. Like this isn't what I signed up for. That's for sure.
Yeah,
not the Michael Jordan flu, but the other flu.
Right.
Yeah. I need someone to have a flu game for sure.
Right.
It'll happen. I mean, it should get through quick. When you look at like the NFL, usually when it's down, it's keeping them down like a week. It keeps the entire. They're going to have extra precaution probably for the next couple days, and then hopefully everyone's okay by this week. And at worst case, then you're ready. Week 4 is Miami, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's Sunday night, sucker.
Yeah. Maybe Messi will play.
We'll see.
It was not planning on
well, yeah,
doing that singing.
I guess it doesn't matter totally if you're Houston.
I know, right?
Right. Golly.
One turned into a crap show.
Sheesh.
People talking in the chat. We'll talk about it on MLS Monday tomorrow, but I think Ian Fry getting sent off right after the final whistle, all kinds of shenanigans.
Yeah.
Again, post match. So, but anyway, not to get off on that tangent. But
so let me ask you guys this, and maybe this can kind of be a feature of these shows moving forward. And maybe it's tough to ask this question after a loss, but who was your man of the match? Whoever wants to start. I mean, it's a loss. You lose 2-0, but was there a
Sweetwater man of the match?
Yep.
Do we want to declare the Sweetwater Brewing Company man of the match?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've been kind of been
not?
poking at it and getting it ready. I definitely wanted to do it after a win for sure. It's so hard for me to pick one because I want to pick Matt Edwards because I feel like the second half should not
First
erase
half, Matt Edwards.
Yeah, for sure. But if I'm being honest, like I think the one player on the team that just really pushed and never really gave up and created tons of chances and almost scored multiple times is Miggy.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I'll say Miggy really drove the attack in that first half. He played the full 90. I know he had a bit of an ankle injury, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Looked like he stepped weird on the grass.
Yeah.
Like he almost got like stubbed his toe in it. Tyler, did you see the same thing? Were you watching on television?
Yeah, he kind of. I mean, he was running with the ball, and there was a challenge, but the challenge didn't look like it contacted him. I think it was just the way he stepped and he went down, and I was like, oh Lord. A little other PTSD for sure. But yeah, it was. I think he just stepped the wrong way, which goes back to my earlier point about some of the bounces. It just like the field seemed weird yesterday, but whatever. Whatever.
Yeah, it's between Edwards and Miggy for me. I kind of joked about early, but I think Matt Edwards just really based on his first half. You saw a lot of promise from him, and you saw him. Ultimately, he kind of tails off in the second half with the rest of the team, but I think he deserves a shout. Certainly, one of the standouts, if you can call it that, from really a tough day at the office for Atlanta United. So him, but probably Miguel Almiron. Outside of that, is my sort of man of the match. The best of the worst, if you will. Not to say the entire team was bad, but you get my drift there.
We got you. How many you got?
Miggy. We can go with that.
So Derek had a good shot because I almost said Bartek Slish. Derek got us saying Slish. Slish is in both of his games so far. He has been a quiet hero. I really feel like Slish has added something to his game, and a lot of it is just him dropping back, like Jackson was saying earlier, is that third center back at times. And I feel like this team in the attack has been able to play out both wings and through the middle, which is not something they were able to do over the past couple of seasons. And that a lot of that is owed to Slish. And I would say Click as well, but Click didn't play in this game. I mean, I actually thought Jay Fortune, I thought he had a really good game too, relatively speaking. But I think Slish has just been the guy doing some work. And he's had a couple of shots in both games, which I've said, like, I really want to see that out of him this year.
Yeah.
And it's coming for him for sure. But that's a good shout. I like Slish. We've said it. Everybody says it. If you're not talking about your midfielders, it's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
Or if you are, it's because it's a really good thing or a really bad thing. So
just looking at the Flip Mob ratings I pulled up right here. Slish got a 7.8, which was the highest of any field player, Atlanta or Charlotte. Just
even
Christian
Zaha.
Kalina, Zaha, they gave a 7.3.
Yeah.
I guess not full credit for some of those bounces. But Christian Kalina had the Foot Mob ban of the match with an 8.0. But Slish with a 7.8, despite that yellow card, which is a very, very tactical yellow card.
Yeah.
Which I remember I saw that and I was just like, all right. Like,
it's real quick.
Yeah. Almiron got a 7.7.
Sorry.
But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say real quick on Bartek. Again, just shows some maturity, just shows the growth that he's exhibited since he arrived at Atlanta. Sort of in the shell when he arrived, at the beginning of last season, but has built a really strong partnership with whoever he's played with in the midfield, whether that's Matthias Kleek, whether that's Jay Fortune. I asked Jay about that, just the relationship that the two of them have built since Bartek's arrival, and they complimented Bartek. He said they have a strong relationship together on and off the field, and that's what you want to see among your midfield core, and that's what you're certainly seeing among or between Jay and Bartek, them having known each other longer, of course. So good to see, and a good performance by Bartek for sure. I want to see him score. Sort of what Tyler was getting at. I want to see him score a banger from distance to round out his game even more.
It's gonna happen. Happen. So, all right. So Sweetwater man of the match, I think, for everybody. Miggy, honorable mention, Matt Edwards and Bartek Slish.
Yes.
There you go. Go get you a Rowdy Peach IPA.
Do better next week, Saba. Score a goal. You can't go 3 weeks without getting it.
Singly out Saba.
I know he's got to go and he's got a copyright infringement, go and like score a goal and get his goal celebration back because there are people stealing it in this league, like unceremoniously. It's so irritating. He's got to score.
Hopefully he gets Red Bulls.
Yeah.
And that was the Tommy motivational speech of the week.
Do better. Do better.
Calling the call out of the week. You Saba, look at me.
So he has a hat. If he scores against Red Bulls, you got to do it again next week.
Who's gonna get it? Who's gonna get it?
Why do you just randomly have a magic 8-ball at your desk?
Sometimes I just ask a question. I get lonely, and I'm
why are we not?
Do I ask Siri or do I ask the ball? I don't know which one
somebody ask
ask
this thing a question, please.
Will Atlanta win next week?
There you go. Will Atlanta
United rest more this week?
What does it say?
Ronnie says no. Sorry.
Hey,
no.
Hold on. Your results are skewed. You got to hold that thing straight.
I never believed in those anyway.
You can't turn it sideways. It's false reading.
Right.
Sorry.
You don't know how to operate a crystal ball.
Not good.
I'm sorry. Not a crystal ball, but
it's close enough.
Who's counting?
All right. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, look for that second half performance against Red Bulls. Hopefully we see something different for our third data point of the year.
Yes, a much better one.
And don't concede first.
Yeah.
Lesson learned.
How do you respond in training? How do you respond leading up to a game against the defending Eastern Conference champions? Red Bulls have always been a team, more or less, that have given Atlanta United trouble. They won against Nashville on Saturday night, so you got to go in and hopefully in front of a home crowd, get back to what you did against Montreal in the season opener. So the response on the training ground, I think, is everything is going to go a long way. and helping this team hopefully get 3 points against Red Bulls.
Tommy, anything?
I just can't believe that John Cena turned heel. Like it's hit my heart. Like after the Atlanta United game, I was sad, and then Cena turned, and it just hasn't been the same. Saturday was like the worst day ever. Worst day ever.
Pretty rough day.
Sorry, Tommy.
All right, y'all. Go check out scarpsandspikes.com. Of articles going up all the time. Almost every day. We'll have stuff from the training ground this week as well. And we will be back tomorrow night for MLS Monday, recapping all the matches from the weekend, all the big stuff, all the news.
Including Miami, like we said earlier, just playing Houston off the pitch.
Shenanigans. The game is afoot. And then Wednesday, we will be back for our normal show. We'll be previewing Red Bulls and figuring out if Atlanta can beat them in the regular season for the second time ever. So
what a stat.
I know.
Stat.
If your energy drink is Red Bull by choice, not this week. Go to Monster.
Yeah.
Go to something else. Go to anything else.
Celsius,
I don't know what that is. I thought that was an alcoholic drink.
No, it's not.
That's one of MLS's new sponsors.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I was wondering why this person that I know who usually doesn't drink was drinking it the other day. I was like, oh, trying something new here. Well, never. Apologies to him. But don't drink Red Bull this week.
Don't drink it.
Don't. Whatever you do.
Boycott Red Bull.
Just everyone has their own things, that superstitions. So yeah, don't do it.
You know what has just as much caffeine, if not more?
Coffee?
Say it.
A latte.
Say it.
A latte. Thank you, Jackson. I'm glad you got me. I don't do dad jokes often, but I had to.
Like, subscribe, share our content on YouTube if you aren't already. Helps us out immensely.
It does.
Are you saying play the music, Tommy?
Play it.
Okay, let's play the music.
I hear it sometimes. Every Wednesday night, I hear it.
Gets into your dreams.
No, we have that white noise machine. I don't know if anyone has those. Like, and my wife will actually bring it to us, like bring it with us on vacation. So it's like in our hotel room, making that noise. And like now I can't sleep without it. But sometimes if I'm a few drinks or gummies in, I start hearing things that come from that white noise.
Oh yeah,
and sometimes it's what you think that you hear. I'm pretty sure. Like it's got to be a science. It probably got cut by the government, so we're never going to be able to find out what happened with it.
Dang, we went way down a rabbit hole after this.
Sorry. But however, I've heard this theme song in the white noise before.
I can see that. Jason, shout out. Sweetwater Hazy, IPA. Support the new partnership. I appreciate it. We all appreciate it. That's awesome. If you have an Alexa, by the way, tell Alexa to play nature sounds like Forest Night. That is the ultimate peaceful sleep you will get.
Thunderstorms.
I like thunderstorms. You know what's crazy about that app though? It has like 85 different noises. You can listen to, like, if you're on like an old wooden ship, like you're a pirate. Or
here's me getting drunk, drinking rum on a boat.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we can get some more peaceful sleep after a win against Red Bulls.
There you go.
Exactly.